Hi there and welcome to this video on the MSI 4K video editing PC. Now a quick disclaimer before I begin, MSI have sent me this unit here for the purpose of this review, but they're not paying me to make this video. So what I thought would be useful is to talk about the individual components within this PC and then also about how I actually approach the 4K and beyond video editing side of thing. And from that, what you'll be able to find out is how each component is important within the workflow of 4K video editing. So the PC is built around the Intel Z370 chipset and it has an Intel 8700K processor. So this is a 6-core processor which is multi-threaded, so you can have up to 12 logical cores on this CPU. It's clocked in at 3.7 GHz and has a max turbo boost of 4.7 GHz. Now what that all means for 4K video editing is that there are multiple cores running at a very high clock speed, and that can really chop through and work its way through 4K video editing. So what I found when I was working on my timelines, that scrubbing through footage was very quick, adding multiple layers of video footage was very good, very responsive, and I would pop Task Manager up every now and again and have a look, and it was nice to see that it wasn't maxing out 100%, there was still some headroom left in there. My playbacks were nice and smooth, and as an editor and when you're working with 4K footage, having smooth playback is really crucial because you want to be able to see what your footage looks like. Also, when you're working, you want to be able to access footage nice and quickly and scrub through it. And these are all tasks which are offloaded to the CPU. So having those 6 cores and that high CPU frequency is really important. So in order to keep the CPU cool when you're working on intensive 4K video editing, there's a Cooler Master Cooler 240 in there, which is a liquid cooler with 2 fans on it. So for me, with a video editing machine, the CPU cooler is not the most interesting piece of equipment, but what I need it to be is functional, and also I want it to be quiet as well. When I'm working away, the last thing I want to be is distracted by large amounts of fan noise. And the Cooler Master MasterLiquid 240 was super quiet. I hardly even noticed it was there. And so for me, that's all I ask of a CPU cooler. So the PC came with 32 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, and this was Kingston Predator HyperX memory. And this is clocked at 3000 megahertz. When I got the PC, I went straight into the BIOS, and all it was a matter of enabling the XMP profile. And this picked up the 3000 megahertz speed straight away. And the PC has been running on that rock stable for the last week or 10 days that I've been using it. So 32 gigabytes when working with 4K video is sufficient, and that allows a smooth editing experience. If you're doing work in After Effects or compositing, then probably look for 64 gigabytes. So it's good to have that expansion there necessary if you do want to add extra modules in the future. So this machine came with 2 types of storage. Firstly, you have an M.2 Intel 600 drive, and also there's a Seagate mechanical 4 terabyte drive in there as well. It was actually the first time I've used an M.2 drive, and I was really impressed at how fast this was, especially in terms of reading data, booting up the OS, getting into applications, loading up programs, lightning fast, really good. There's actually 2 M.2 slots on the motherboard, so you can actually look at RAID arrays. If you want to go even faster, you could have them set up in a RAID 0 approach. Typically I work with SSDs and the slightly older SATA 3 type. I usually have most of my video files on that and I'll work from those. But the M.2, I was really impressed with how quick it was. And then the mechanical drive in there as well is good for archiving, backing up projects and storing more larger files as well. But as a working drive, the Intel 600 M.2 drive was super quick. So the MSI Z370 SLI Plus motherboard has got a number of connectors on the back input-output panel. You've got 10 USB ports for a variety of different devices. You've also got USB 3.1 Gen 2, and you've got 1 Type A and 1 Type C port. And it's really good to see them included on motherboards now because it means that I can offload footage or transfer footage super quickly. So the graphics card in this workstation is an MSI GTX 1080 with 8 gigabytes of video memory. Really high-end card. Video editing doesn't tend to use the graphics card all that often other than in particular graphics card accelerated effects. And Premiere has had this for quite a while now. And there's certain effects like warp stabilization, the Metri panel, which all can take advantage of the graphics card and offload some of the processing onto the GPU. And having a more powerful graphics card is certainly beneficial for this side of things. I've been using a GTX 980 Ti and a GTX 1070 in various other edit workstations I have, and I must admit the 1080 just sees that little bump extra in performance, just makes things a little bit smoother, means that rendering of things like warp stabilizer are just that little bit faster. So really good to see such a powerful card in there as well. So one thing that's really important with a workstation build is reliability, and for that you want to have a quality power supply. And in this we have a Cooler Master V750, so that's putting out 750 watts. And typically for this type of setup that should be more than enough. You never want to max out your power supply and be running it really close to its maximum. Somewhere around 50 to 75% should be pretty good. And I must admit the Cooler Master brand, very good, very stable. So having a quality power supply like that, powering a PC like this is a sensible choice. So housing everything is the Cooler Master MasterCase H500P, and it's a nice solid design case, plenty of room inside, some nice covers here to cover power supplies and drives, just adds that extra bit of nice finish. So at the front you have twin 200mm fans which provide large amounts of airflow into the case. They're also RGB, so you can have them set up in nice colours to your choosing. But the main purpose of those is to keep all the components inside there nice and cool. Obviously when you're working with intensive applications like Premiere Pro, editing lots of 4K video, you're generating lots of heat, and having a case with good airflow is really important. It also means that the fans don't have to work as hard if you've got good airflow, so they don't need to be maxed out, and it just makes for a quieter experience, something that when that PC's on the desk next to me is quite important to me. So one thing I was really impressed about with the MSI Z370 SLI Plus board was the onboard sound that it has. So it has something called Audio Boost 4. Now typically I'll use an external preamp to monitor my sound, but for the purpose of using this machine for the last week or so, I've used the onboard sound on the motherboard, and I was really impressed with the clarity and quality of it. So using the MSI 4K video editing machine for this past week or 10 days has been a really pleasant experience. It hasn't let me down at all. It's been a super smooth and very responsive PC. And for me, that's exactly what I want from a video editing machine. So the editing process for me shouldn't be held up with slow render times or waiting for footage to load. I want to be concentrating on my creativity and developing the project that I'm working on within the edit. And so a PC that allows me to do that is the type of tool that I want to use. Now I use Adobe Premiere Pro as my video editing software, but MSI do have an offer on at the moment that if you purchase either the Z370 SLI Plus or the X299 SLI Plus, then you can get a 60-day trial version of Vegas Pro. You'll just need to register your motherboard on the MSI website, and the link to do this is in the description below. So if you've got any specific questions on this build, please do drop them in the comments below and I'll do my very best to get back to you. There's also a full list of all the components in the description below, so do check that out as well. And thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.